Okay, well, cool. Fun game. So we've got 16 people here now, so that's probably about what we're going to be like for Saturday Go Club. Unfortunately, I hope, yeah, this is a viewer game. Yeah, Battleporge. If you go to the Discord, I've got a channel in there for viewer submitted um, reviews, and so yeah, I just thought it would be good to just start today with a review while people kind of get in the club. So cool. We'll go home here. Oh, I'm hearing Discord noises. What's up?
Oh, Battleporch just joined and another
Hmm.
person.
Nice. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Discord. So cool. Let me open a demo board. This is going to be not a super exciting demo, but I think that this. I mean, it's going to be valuable for beginners for sure. Because I mean, we've already seen some ladder mistakes, even like in the like mid tens. But maybe this will be a good discussion point too for those of you who are stronger players. I'm interested to know like how do you teach ladders because so like okay, here's the super basic thing that happens, right? Oh, I guess because I'll probably crop this as a VOD. Welcome to Saturday Go Club. um, okay, so we're going to talk about ladders. And so I'm interested in how some of the stronger players teach ladders, and I'm just going to show some things. So, very often when we're teaching new players, right, we show them Atari and we show them like groups that are connected, share moves, and sometime after that we go, now let's look at this because I think this is what they did in Hikaru, and so people are just like, well, that must be the right way to teach. Um, so we go like this, and then we put a stone like here, and then we go, okay, now you play white, Atari, right? And then Atari, right? And we just let them do this, and it's like you just got this troll face on, right? You get, every time you teach a new player, you're like, oh, we get to watch them, die in the ladder, and then, we tell them, okay, this is a ladder. It's always going to end in death. Um, but I feel like just the isolated case it lets you know that such a thing exists, but it's still really hard to find in game for beginner players, I think. Okay, you go the other way. Yeah, sure, you can go either way, where you take white and you say, okay, try to kill me. Oh, look, I got out. Try something else. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Um, but look, the whole point of this ladder is that Triple Gote, you like my approach of teaching ladders already? Okay. So the whole point of learning ladders, like you will almost never see on an open board or even close to anything locally that looks like this exactly. These set of stones will be like a subset of a larger battle, and the important thing to note is often not even this, but this, right? So the whole thing that a ladder is concerned about is a cutting point. So where you might see it in game would be like it might look more like this. Something like this. Right? So this is where ladders come into play. When you have one of these, okay, I've got this wall, but I've got a cutting point in the wall, and I want to know, is that cutting point safe or not? And in fact, why don't we go ahead and just remove this so there's a cut on both sides? Okay. And so it's in a point like this when we need to know, okay, like if I'm black, can I cut this group and live? It's interesting. Um, and so it's or like, for example, if we take away, oh, can I not take those away? Oh, maybe like this, something like this, right? Maybe here you want to know, well, can I cut this group? And if I do, will it live? And so we need to learn a few different variations, and we need to learn like how to spot it. So let's look at that. So does it make sense if I consider this cut as black that locally this is the same situation that we looked at before, where, oops, right? So we have this, and we've seen this shape. It gets laddered across, right? But now it's upside down, and so the ladder goes this way, right? So if white Atari's here, push Atari, run Atari, run Atari, run Atari, and it just goes on and on and on. And we know from the Atari that we know from the ladder that if there's no ladder breaker, then the ladder goes on forever. and the aggressor, the one who's doing the Atarying, wins it. So black can see at this point that ladder doesn't work, right? So just to point out importantly, first of all, that this is the sort of situation where you see ladders. It's always, two walls are sort of butting heads, and you're wondering if you can cut to separate your opponent's walls into two different groups. Because if that cut lives, then it's much, much more difficult for your opponent, usually. Okay. So we saw that this ladder works, right? And just to show the simple example, so let's follow that ladder a little bit. Something over here. So like if white had a stone, let's say here, then this cut wouldn't work, right? So now if black were to try, we can follow it out real quick.
This doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense?
When you have a black stone rather than a white? I'm confused in what you're trying to demonstrate here.
A ladder breaker.
That's not a ladder breaker when the color is white.
Oh, you're right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Right, so, yeah, my bad. So white wins that either way. Okay. Yeah.
That's why I'm so confused.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so now, right? So now when you run into, you're right. So now when you run into your own stone, anywhere along this ladder, then suddenly white has all these cutting points, and there's no way to kill black, right? There's all these double Ataris. So even if white continues, black can just break out anywhere. So of course in game, both players read that, right? So really at this point, let me show here. Let's say there's a black stone here. At this point, both players should realize that the cut is possible, right? So this is how far back the ladder is considered. A lot of times when we teach beginners the ladder, they think about this whole string of stones, but it never gets played unless you're Lise at all and you're playing the broken ladder game. It's at this point, right? And so, and similarly, that means later, let's say, I don't know, white plays a move over here, something like that. That probably fits in this ladder. Yeah, it does. So that makes the ladder good for white again, right? Okay, so just things to think about. But let's look at another scenario, right? So there are other things that can break the ladder. For example, if black plays here, let's say, I don't know, white plays somewhere else. Because white might think, well, I've got this ladder breaker, so I'm fine. But watch what happens, right? So when these two stones, and maybe I should just keep this like up here. Right, so this is the theoretical ladder shape, right? And we're manipulating that all over the place. When the two stones up here have three of their liberties taken away, then the ladder won't work. Because if black cuts and white pushes, like the ladder dictates, this is Atari. So where white would usually want to do this, you can't, right? Because it just kills. So then white has to do this. And so now, maybe black can run away, and maybe black can find life over here. I mean, it's difficult, right? If white is still strong in this area, then it's still fine. But the ladder doesn't work, right? And that's the important thing to note. Is like so again, the important thing to note here is that these two stones have two stones against them. That breaks the ladder. And the thing more important than just memorizing that is just to always consider it when you're thinking about the ladder. Just try to read a couple moves of it and see if you hit an Atari. Okay, so a similar thing that can break the ladder. Imagine, this is essentially a ladder breaker. Imagine that there were already a stone here. Oops. Imagine that there already a stone here. So now, and let's give white more. So we don't have to worry about this. This part, well, let's not do that. We're going to talk about another thing there later. Okay, let's do like this. Okay, so this ladder works. If black goes there, white can kill. No problem. But let's say that there's a black stone here. Black plays this. This breaks the ladder again, right? So if white pushes, black runs, white Ataris. But look, again, black has Atari'd this stone. So again, in the same way that if these two stones are down to two freedoms when the ladder starts, if this stone is down to 2 freedoms and the ladder 2 starts, that it's also not going to work, right? So again, just looking for those fragile things. Okay, and then here's another thing that's fun. Let's say, let's go back. We're just going to put a little black group over here. So black has a ladder breaker, but white has a third stone over here. So again, locally, we still have this shape if black tries the ladder, but ask yourself, does it work? So you might be thinking, well, if we do this, then black will eventually find a black stone and live, right? But white does not have to comply. Here, white can net. And this is another one of those things, like we often show people the small net in sort of an isolated situation, but these are the kind of situations where it pops up. I mean, it still happens that you get it in sort of that isolated ideal case, but you have to look for it in other places, right? So here, it's true that the ladder doesn't, that the ladder works for black, but the cut still doesn't because white can just net. Now there's no way for black to get out. So the other thing to note, right, about this ladder is if there's a third stone out here, then white doesn't have to ladder. There's a net. And we can go on and on. It just gets increasingly complicated. If you've watched some of my games against some Dawn players, or even against other like SDKs, sometimes I miss ladders. And it's not because I don't know how to read this idealized case. There are just like increasingly complicated ways to get into a ladder, and increasingly complicated ways that those complicated ways can break. So you're always just kind of going one step further to realize, will this end up just being a ladder or not? And can I make that ladder work? Can I not? Things like that. So it gets more and more complicated. We don't need to get into all these nitty-gritty, but just to realize where these things pop up, how to continue with them, and just to consider in a very first order take some of the things that can break them. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show today. Y'all had some really good ideas in Discord about what some of our Saturday lessons should cover, and they get a little bit more complicated, and I think that's fine. I think some days we should go higher than like this is a pretty beginner level, right? This is like a 20Q level discussion. I'm happy to go to a higher level discussion as long as we can also make it relevant for some beginners as well. And what I would also really like is for some of y'all to be willing to teach. So if you've got an idea that you want to cover, I would love for you to hop on Discord. We let you drive the demo board, and let's just hear what you have to say, because I think that's a fun part of the community. And even if you're 20K, if there's something cool that happened in your game and you want to maybe we can review it together and we can see what lesson there is to be learned. And then if you want to show the lesson that you learned, I think that'd be awesome. So anyway, okay, just to consider that. And yeah, so I said got in the little thing that we're going to do our little 9x9 tournament. Do y'all feel like doing the 9x9 tournament? I think that's fun.